Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
Welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
Before we get started today, Annie and I just wanted to give a big shout out, thank you, big air hug here to all of our Patreon members. We really appreciate you guys. We appreciate you supporting our work. Annie and I really love this opportunity to, come in and talk to everybody. And it's great that you guys actually listen. So so we really appreciate it. And, if you haven't donated at all on Patreon and want to support us, we welcome you as well. And if there's ever an episode that, you really liked or a message that kind of touched you a little bit, please let us know. We want to know about these things, and also feel free to share too. The more we can get the word out, the better. So anyway, just wanted to thank everybody again for listening. So today, Annie and I, and it's funny because Annie and I had a little bit of this conversation a while ago and in person, and we're totally doing a pod on this. And so we got on the subject of certain things, and then we started talking about when people have like allergies and they choose to do like elimination type cycles and stuff like that. And I think that what we ultimately want to talk about is how kind of, I hate to say it, but dangerous that can get. Like you can really mess up your microbiome more by taking things out when you don't even realize that may not actually be the case for you, Right. And just that there's so much self-diagnosing around things, or I'm bloated, so therefore I need to take out, everything, you know what I mean? Or I have to eliminate, here's the elimination part, right? Oh, it must be dairy. It must be gluten. It must be sugar. It must be, how about it's just your body, and I even said, Annie and I were having this conversation, and it's like, just because you have gas doesn't mean that something's wrong.
Right. It's normal. Totally normal. And I think, but I think this is, you talk about self-diagnosis. It's like immediate for most people to literally sit, eat a bowl of cereal, let's say cereal and milk, feel bloated, and then immediately say, milk made me bloated. I can't eat milk.
Right.
And yet that food, literally is not even chyme in your stomach yet.
Right. Well, that's such a good point, because I don't think people realize that. Yeah.
We have not even, gas and bloating, it comes from the small and large intestine.
Correct.
Where digestion and absorption are taking place. So where we have those microvilli, where we have the exchange of different macro and micronutrients and water and bacteria exists. When we consume something and it's in our stomach, it's to get into the science, it's a bolus going down our esophagus. It gets into our stomach, and we have a bunch of enzymes, hormones, and acid released into our gut to turn it into chyme, and it all mixes together and creates this, a different kind of ball, I guess you could think of it, or different type of, ball of food. So it can then go into the small intestine and start that process. There's very, very, very little digestion that occurs in the stomach. It's a little bit of water, which goes right into the circulatory system. So it's frustrating because it's constant. Oh, I have so much gas. It's just because I ate whatever dinner an hour ago, and it's like that does not even affecting you at this point. We are not even to your dinner in your body at the right moments. But there's this, immediate reaction to, I ate this, therefore this happened. And I think too, when you think of true food allergies and intolerances, if someone is truly lactose intolerant, there will be a reaction, but that cramping and bloating, diarrhea, gas, whatever they're experiencing, it still doesn't start immediately.
True enough.
It's frustrating.
That's right. And so, I know when I'm working with someone, something that I really like to, well, this is the other piece, is that if you're remotely considering like, oh, I think I have to start eliminating every food I eat, why don't we reach out to somebody who knows a little bit about it and that can actually, kind of help you go through it, and also help assess even if that is actually what you really need to be doing. Now, the other thing that I really like asking my clients too is if they can like keep a log with symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's have you eat and then let's, document the symptoms that you come, when it happens, what your experience is, what's going on.
Right.
It's really fascinating because, and I'm not going to say that, people certainly don't develop, food allergies and things like that. But what I'm saying is that the food is presenting, or whatever, what you're thinking is presenting as the symptom, when really what we need to find out though is what's the foundation, what's actually going on with your gut.
Right.
There's a lot of things. It can be hormonal, it can be anxiety, again, gut
digestive enzymes.
Yes, or lack thereof for
Right.
various reasons. Yeah, it could be that there is some gut stuff going on, but it's not necessarily about the food. It's about the gut.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
But again, we come back to it's always the food's fault.
Right. And that I think is the differentiation I'm trying to make,
Right.
is that, it's about something systemically, potentially, not necessarily what you're eating. It could be how you're eating. It may have nothing to do with that at all. And that's kind of the whole point, is there's so much to investigate. The other thing I'm thinking about too, it's like I can already hear people kind of say though, well, I removed that though and I felt better. You'll get
I
that.
stop wearing jeans at night and I feel better. So
yeah. Right.
It's the same thing. There's always going to be an effect to something, right? Like,
yes. Well, and the other thing too that people also may not understand is that if you did take something out and you quote unquote feel better, again, it's not about that thing. It might be the composition of what that thing is. And that still tells us information though, that something else that has that same composition may not sit well because of, again, low enzyme, maybe your gut is more permeable, lately. Maybe there is inflammation. Maybe there is, maybe you don't have enough HCl. Maybe you don't even have enough vitamin B12 in your system. I mean, there's so many
fluid.
Fluid, right? I mean, there's so many things that affect digestion in general and absorption. And again, it's just kind of, it's like, reminding people that's can be what it is. And to stop, just because it'll drive you insane. And that's what I find too, when it's like, I have clients who have come to me finally after they have done all the things, right? Like I have to do all the things on my own. Then I get super, super frustrated, and then I'm super confused, and then I don't know what's, and so then they finally come to you and it's like, oh man, I'm so sorry you lived in misery for so long when we could have just started tackling this.
You don't have to.
Right.
But the other piece to this too is who or what and people are getting their information from. So I immediately eat something and feel like shit after eating it. So I go and Google, and then I'm going to cut this out. Well, then I eat this, and then I don't eat this, or then I do this. Well, I go on back to the internet and I cut this out. Or I read a book from some Joe Blow who says, think of it, if you have ADHD, you're not supposed to eat these things. Or if you have, the latest is OCD, you're not supposed to eat these things. Or literally these people are coming up with this random association. There is no science to any of this stuff related to, if you have this, don't eat this, unless it's a practiced, diagnosis and diet within a hospital. Do not do it.
Right.
Just because a doctor says, well, follow this diet because you have this, that doesn't mean it is a prescribable diet.
Yeah. Completely.
We know the cardiac diet is a proven thing.
Sure.
There is no science-based research evidence that if you have ADHD, you are supposed to cut out gluten and dairy.
Oh, I know.
There is none. That is not a thing. However, you have some kind of wackadoodly medical professionals who will say these things. Well, guess what? These kids are already undernourished, if not malnourished. They're already struggling because maybe they have pickiness. And now you're going to tell them to stop eating X, Y, and Z. Maybe they don't even have ADHD at all. Typically, that's misdiagnosed. So
I would agree with you.
It's, and that's just one example. I mean, certainly if you have ulcerative colitis, you have Crohn's, you have constipation, there are certain things you need to be eating and not eating to alleviate symptoms or, make it better. Yes, again, but those are medical diets. So when we have people who are, I'm intolerant to this, I'm intolerant to this, I'm only a little intolerant to this. My first question is, how did you get diagnosed? Typically, they'll say blood test. That's not the gold standard. The gold standard for diagnosing an intolerance is basically what we're talking about, where you do a recall, you do a food challenge, you're orally challenging foods. And I've always just thought, Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, colonoscopy is going to be the easiest way to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Is it
definitely
easy?
Not the easiest, but but the most straightforward,
It's more straightforward, and it gives you a clear answer. The blood work is not 9 times out of 10 is not accurate.
Right.
So when people say, well, I did the blood work, or they'll have their genes tested. That's the other thing. Right?
That is the other thing. I
know. They'll do the whole gene testing.
And unless you're doing food allergy testing where they're pricking, they prick literally your back, your arms, and then they are putting droplets of samples all over, they're doing like hundreds of different foods, and then you're getting diagnosed with possible allergies. Well, sure. If you have reactions there, that might be indicative then that some of these foods or some of these, types of substances, for lack of a better word, in the food is creating some inflammation, and that is what you're experiencing. But it still requires that kind of testing, not just saying, well, I think this might be happening.
Right. And people don't want to admit this, or maybe they don't realize it, or maybe they're just, again, so out of tune with their bodies that when they eat something and have a quote unquote reaction or feel yucky, bloated, gassy, whatever it might be, they therefore eliminate whatever food. What they don't realize is now they've created a fear or anxiety around
100%.
This, like, what if there's cheese in this food and now I got to worry about la 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 la. Now we're making our gut worse. And where do most women carry their anxiety? In their digestive tract.
Oh, yeah.
Period. So whether it's general anxiety, and men do too, but women for sure have this like weird connection with anxiety and gut. And what's going to make it worse?
Right.
Being a wackadoodle about what you're eating. And I always use going back to, not to switch gears, but maybe a little bit, going back to the microbiome. The best example I can give is when you take a group of people who are generally quote unquote healthy eaters, and you take them all out to a fish fry that they probably only eat once or twice a year anyways. Sure. And they eat said fish fry, and then afterwards, quickly after, they don't feel good. Well, yeah, your gut might not have the bacteria for the fried food that you just have, essentially, right? Like, and the components of that food. So can we just be okay with enjoying our food? We might feel yucky after, and we know this isn't something that we normally consume, and that there's a scientific reason behind it. It's not body dysfunction, food is wrong or right.
Yes.
That you are, like that it just is what it is, right? It's okay. But our microbiome plays a big role in this. And I think people forget this.
Huge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Going back to when you were talking about like people with ADHD, and I would like to be more inclusive on that, but just going back to what you had said around that of like being malnourished, I don't think people understand. I mean, even going back to just the concept of ADHD, when they want to blame sugar and what have you, if their diet is primarily simple sugars or carbohydrate, yeah, that might end up being a problem. But to your point, Annie, because
Mhm.
it's creating malnutrition, not
Correct.
because these things cause ADHD or
Right.
cause focus issues. It's because there's not enough of the other things that this body actually needs to function. So again, it's like, can we stop shaming certain types of foods? Like, oh, that's the problem. Because then when we're also trying to work with, say, usually it's a child that we're trying to work with, now we're creating good and bad foods. Now we're
Correct.
creating this whole thing, and now it's turning into a deeper psychological
Well, and
experience.
when you, especially kids, and just continuing our example of a diagnosis of ADHD, when they're told to eliminate, and usually with ADHD, they're already going to be smaller. There may
Yes.
already be some
Yes.
malnourished, maybe mild at best.
Yes.
It could go severe all the way up.
Yeah.
I've seen it
Completely.
all. But here's the deal. What makes a person not be able to focus? Well, not eating, being malnourished.
Hands down.
So we're interpreting lack of focus
I know.
to ADHD.
Right.
But maybe it's because they're not eating, they're
I
not
know.
growing, their brain doesn't have anything. And what I don't understand is how adults these days can't put this together,
Mm-hmm.
because they too see the effects of not eating.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just couldn't focus. Did you eat lunch? No, I haven't eaten since breakfast. It's 10 hours ago.
Right. Or how was your sleep?
Gee.
Sleep's crummy
Right,
too, because you're
right.
not eating what you need, or you're the nutrition piece. Yeah.
And you think too, like, I mean, I see it constantly. Oh, I couldn't sleep last night. Couldn't sleep last night. Couldn't sleep last night. And it might be someone with no anxiety, but it's someone who's eliminated foods from their diet, or they've
Yeah.
started, whether it be due to intolerances or they're trying to lose weight or an eating disorder. Insomnia is directly related to nutrition or lack thereof, right? So if I'm not sleeping, it's probably because I'm not eating enough. If my hair is falling out, it's because I'm not eating enough, specifically
100%.
calories and or protein. If
100%.
my lips are cracked, it is related to my B vitamin consumption. If
Yes.
I mean, I kind of want to say duh, but I also know that people don't always correlate these food behaviors that they're engaging in or food choices
Mm-hmm.
to what's happening in and outside of their body, because we have normalized not liking food.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Mm-hmm.
normalized elimination of food
Mm-hmm.
to the point where you have X wrong with you, eliminate this. You got a broken leg, eliminate this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to the
Right.
point where it doesn't even make sense.
Correct.
It
Correct.
doesn't even make sense. Oh, you want a
Correct.
better tan? Make sure you're eating this.
Yeah.
You want to walk better? Eat this. Don't eat this. I mean, it's asinine.
Yeah, it totally is.
And none of it makes sense.
Right.
Most of it is all just a selling of something,
Right.
right? Like, we're
Right.
trying to sell something. I mean, we've talked about this before. How often are you asked about collagen?
Mm-hmm. Oh
Well,
gosh.
are you serious? Like, really, people? Like, just, you might as well just take a lighter and burn your money at this point. Like, and that goes with so many things, especially these specialty food items for these, different things that people think they have to eliminate from their diet.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And I think what happens too is a lot of people think, oh, if this is kind of like the behind the scenes in your brain. If I'm going to eliminate this to avoid these intolerances, I'm going to lose weight.
Oh yeah, of course.
So we've got this weird convoluted, webbing of disordered eating thoughts that have always existed, but I've maybe just kind of let them sit to the side. The desire to lose weight, the desire to, quote unquote, be in shape. And now I'm having gut issues and I get to start eliminating things, or I get to follow this diet.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now I'll lose weight. And
Right.
guess what? That doesn't always happen.
No.
Doesn't always happen.
No.
And sometimes we see weight gain with elimination diets because the body is so like, what is going on?
Right.
In adults, not so much kids. Kids, I just, it's not a good idea. I don't.
Right.
Unless under supervision, but
Right.
we shouldn't be allowing parents to just start eliminating things from kids' diets. What we see often is parents' way of eliminating foods is they still want it in the house for themselves. So they end up locking cabinets or refrigerators.
Oh my
I mean, it ends
gosh.
up being a very, very food negative focus. And
Oh,
it's just not good.
no, it's not good at
Not
all.
good.
It's not good at all.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, bottom line is if you are thinking you may have an intolerance or an allergy, or that you really are feeling like a food is bothering you, I'm just encouraging everybody to reach out to somebody who really specializes in that kind of a thing
An
before
allergist, for
yeah.
example.
An allergist would be a really good start. And then based on those results, even, working with, a dietitian, but it's just so important that, again, with most things in nutrition as well, this isn't about just isolating something. It's like we have to look at the whole person. We have to look at the whole picture.
Right.
What is going on totally and completely here,
Mhm.
and that's the missing one of the missing factors, I think.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
No, I
anyway,
agree completely.
yeah.
I just hope, and there are even just to, again, put in a plug, because we're not saying dietitians are all created equal,
They're
right?
not all created equal. And
Nicole and
that's
I feel similar on this.
yeah.
There's dietitians who do the whole genetic testing, blood
Right.
work crap, and
Right.
it's not valid on any level. There's no scientific evidence to any of it.
Right. Right.
So just be mindful of making sure you're looking for the right people. And again, an allergist is usually the way to go. But even if an allergist says, well, let's do some blood work. No, do it the right way. Okay. Mm-hmm. Instead of that, because there's so much that blood work will tell you that might just be a snapshot in time, not actual evidence of long-term body things that are going on.
Right. Well, there you have it, y'all. Closing this one out. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit between2pastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.